All right, kids, welcome back to another episode of Running with Wolves. We are going to talk all about my secret sauce for selling without selling today. So, something I get asked very, very often is how do I sell to my audience without feeling salesy? A lot of people come to me and they're like, I either feel like a used car salesman, like I feel gross when I sell to my audience, or I don't necessarily know how to sell, so I basically just talk about my products or my services and my content, and I tell people that they're available, or I just post like educational content and hope someone asks me about my products or my services, right? Or goes to the link in my bio. None of those things are going to create consistent, effortless sales for you and create sales in a way that feels good for not only you, but also for the buyer. So that's really what I want to talk about today because it's something that we do for our clients consistently. It's something we've mastered for ourselves. And in my opinion, it's really kind of the difference between us and other marketers. So we're going to talk, like I said, all about like sales versus selling without selling. Okay. So like I said, there's really kind of two camps of people when it comes to sales. There's very masculine sales and there's very feminine sales. And my opinion is that neither are actually correct. And you have to kind of meet somewhere in the middle. So a lot of masculine salespeople, and this can be, men or women, really any gender. A lot of them are focused on cold calling, cold DMing. To them, it's really kind of like a numbers game, right? So it's like, okay, how many leads can I get? And even though I'm not necessarily forming a relationship with them, how is it that I can go about basically having a sales conversation with as many people as possible in an understanding that my conversion rate is going to be slightly lower, but if I reach a ton of people, then, great, all is fine and good because I'm still going to make the same amount of money. Then there's the more feminine side of the camp when it comes to sales, and people in that camp are very focused on like just basically showing up as themselves, telling their story, relying on, I don't want to say the universe because that sounds so bad, but a lot of people will basically say like the sales will come to me when they're ready to come to me. And all I need to do is just show up to make that happen. But there isn't any sort of like strategy or thought process behind the way that they're showing up in order to create those sales. And so both camps, when it comes to sales, end up super frustrated because either they're being super salesy and they're turning their audience off. And so the conversion rate isn't what they want it to be and they're not making the sales they want to make. Or they're not seeing sales at all because the content that they're putting out isn't necessarily creating those sales. Or maybe if they are seeing sales, they don't know why, it's not predictable, it's not consistent, right? Both camps are the two extremes. Meeting somewhere in the middle is really your way to create, like I said, effortless sales, but also on top of that, sales that actually feel really good to create. I've never created a sale in the last 3 or 4 years where I was like, ooh, that felt really gross. Like I had to convince that person. I used to be in retail. I did medical sales. Like I did all of these different things where I felt very slimy, like convincing somebody to, buy the product or the service, that I was selling. And so with this marketing strategy, I feel like our buyers and our clients' buyers, whether it's a product or a service-based business, are super empowered to make that purchase or that investment because you've primed them with your content in the right way. And that's really what I want for each and every one of you. Like I want you to be able to create consistent, predictable, effortless sales that, come in spades, but also be able to create them in a way that feels good for you and for the buyer. So let's get into kind of how you can go about doing that. So my belief is very much that there is a way to have your content do the selling for you. And there's a couple of things that make up this strategy. So first and foremost, this is very much backed by sales psychology, I will tell you. If you look at sales psychology, if you do any research around sales psychology, you will understand that in terms of buyer behaviors, in terms of how to, talk to different people to get them to make a purchase or an investment, it's really all about having this innate understanding of your audience, right? So if you know exactly what is important to them in terms of making, a purchase or an investment, and you can give that to them on a silver plate, essentially, it makes the buying so much easier for them and the sale so much easier for you. For example, if you are selling a skincare product, right? Maybe you're selling a retinoid or something. I'm going to use, this example in the future. And you are, selling it to somebody who has really bad acne, which retinol can help with acne or with wrinkles, right? If you're selling it to somebody who has really bad acne, but all you're talking about is how retinol helps prevent, wrinkling and aging and things like that, it's going to go right over their head because they're not really going to care about that solution because they're looking for something that's going to help them with their acne. If you're selling a retinol to them and saying, this is the one thing that is going to help you with your acne, they're going to be more inclined to listen to you and potentially buy from you. Now, we're going to talk about obviously how to sell to them in a meaningful way based on their buyer types in the future, but you have to understand what is important to your audience and what they're looking for in terms of a solution from a product or service like yours. And you also have to think about, okay, what do they take into account when making that purchase or that investment decision, i.e. what are their buyer types, right? Because they all take different things into consideration. And then the last thing that you really have to be thinking about is what potential questions or objections might they have in this process, right? Whether they're making a buying decision, an investment decision. Let's say, you go to buy a car, right? You're going to have very specific questions, but if you're a car salesman, I can't talk today. If you're a car salesman, 9 times out of 10, you already know the questions that these people who are looking to, purchase these vehicles are going to ask, right? And so you're prepared with that information. And in fact, when you're walking them through the lot, you're showing them different cars, they're test driving the cars, you're already feeding them the answers that you want them to be taking into account based off of the questions that you know that they're likely going to have, which is going to mitigate so many freaking objections, right? It's sales 101 is knowing your audience, knowing what's important to them, and then also on top of that, knowing potentially what questions or objections they might have and being able to give them those answers before they even ask. It builds trust. It causes them to realize they don't actually have questions or objections, right? There's so much that goes into it. And then the other thing you also have to take into consideration is that you can't just outwardly sell or even just talk about like the solution that your product or service offers without first priming your audience. This is another mistake that I see a lot of people make when it comes to creating really effortless sales is they think that if they just talk about the solution that their product or their service offers, automatically it's going to create a sale. That's not necessarily true because what if you don't have any people in your audience to talk about a solution to? You're not going to create any sales, right? Or you have people in your audience, but maybe they don't trust you yet. Or maybe they don't know or have a full understanding of your products or your services, any of those things, right? So this is a full buyer's journey that we have to talk about here. So you guys have heard me talk about our Wolf framework, obviously, which is attract, warm, convert. And each piece of that framework is equally as important as the other because if you don't have all of those pieces, you don't create sales. It's not like you just get to pick and choose with marketing strategies of like what you're going to use and what you're not going to, because you have to think about moving people kind of through this buyer's journey. So say, the buyer's journey we're finding a lot of times with our clients that's happening is they're finding a brand or a business on a very heavy search engine platform like TikTok or Pinterest or Google or any of those platforms, right? But TikTok's become very, very popular. So let's say you find a brand or a business on TikTok, right? One of their videos shows up on your For You page based off of their targeting, strategies and based off of what you're interacting with your content. You see the content and you're like, oh, that's really interesting, or oh, that's really funny, or oh, I really like this brand or this business, right? Let's use Duolingo, for example. They have incredible TikTok marketing. One of their really funny videos pops up on your For You page. And it's basically them being like, when you use Google Translate instead of actually learning the language, right? And they're like making fun of you. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is so true. I've wanted to learn the language. Maybe I'm doing traveling soon. Your interest is piqued. That's that attraction part, right? They're getting your interest. And then they're also going to get it to a point where because of that, you're going to go to Duolingo's page. You're going to check out more of their content. You're going to want to binge their content eventually. And the content on that page is designed, because they're selling a digital product, it's designed to build trust with you. It's designed to differentiate themselves from their competitors. So like Duolingo versus Rosetta Stone, right? Rosetta Stone is another language learning like digital product or service. And so with Duolingo, it very much caters to like the, younger generation. There's gamification included in the app, so it makes it really fun to learn a language and challenging, and like you're, trying to like win this game essentially. And so all of their content is very much going to cater to that younger generation as well. And so because maybe if you're in their target audience, you feel like, the content that they're putting out is very relatable to you. It's very funny and entertaining. It builds trust with you. It definitely differentiates themselves from their competitors based off of who their target audience is, and also showcases that they are like number one in their industry, right? All of their content they're putting out is designed to do that. That's that warming phase. And so then you're finally getting them to not only binge your content, but become like raving fans for your brand. And so because of that, they're like, okay, I freaking love Duolingo TikTok. Now I want to go look at their Instagram. And now I'm actually considering, learning a language, downloading the app, right? You go over to their Instagram, you're looking at their content there. Maybe you've gone to their landing page, any of those things, right? You're kind of scoping out their brand a little bit more. All of their content is driving you to do that. And then you finally make the purchase or the investment. Obviously, it's a free app, but you have to make like subscription purposes or purchases and things like that. So all that to say, if they didn't hook your attention first on TikTok, if they didn't differentiate themselves from their competitors and build trust with you as your target audience, if they didn't actually convert you into a sale based off of the fact that they know you want to learn a language and plugging Duolingo as that unique solution, you never would have downloaded the app, right? Never in a million years. And so that is what your content is designed to do. And that's how you go about selling without selling, right? You're attracting people in, you're warming, and you're converting them. Other things you need to take into account. So let's talk about obviously selling your product or your service as a solution rather than focusing on selling the product or the service itself. Now, this is something that obviously we've been kind of leading up to. So I want to differentiate the two. So let's say you're using very traditional sales tactics, right? You're just talking about the actual product or the service. We'll talk about service-based businesses first. We'll use marketing, agencies as an example, just because that's obviously what we do. So if I was going to sell you our services without actually selling it as a solution, I would say we're going to offer you a customized marketing and sales strategy and a content plan. And then on top of that, we're going to create the content for you. We're going to do all these different things. I'm talking about the deliverables of our actual service, right? That doesn't necessarily mean anything to you. 1,000,001 marketing agencies could tell you that they're going to do that for you. But if I tell you instead, and I'm selling to you without selling, hey, I'm going to help you 2 or 3x your revenue in the same amount of time that it takes for you right now to create content, because I'm going to shift your marketing and sales strategy. So it's going to get more attention from your audience. It's going to create brand piranhas out of your followers, and it's going to get people to effortlessly buy from you without any objections or questions. And I'm going to do all of that while taking a bunch of time off of your plate, because I'm going to do all of the strategy and content creation and posting for you. That is a massive transformation for people. And that's going to get their attention, because our target audience not only cares about how we're going to make them more money with less time, but they also care about getting stuff taken off of their plate. So that's huge for them. That is a solution that they'd be willing to have a conversation about, rather than me saying, I'm going to give you a marketing and sales strategy and a content plan. They don't really care about that. That doesn't do anything for them. It doesn't excite them. And so therefore, they're not going to have a conversation or make an investment, right? Same thing with a product-based business. We just talked about retinol. If you're saying, hey, here's this retinol, this is traditional selling, this is what it has in it, the different ingredients, this is how frequently you're going to go about using it, this is how much it costs. This brand, I don't know if you want to use like a bigger brand, it's been around for a really long time, it's proven, it does blah, 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 right? Instead, you could sell without selling and talk about the solution, which is, hey, I'm going to give you this retinol, and it's actually, if you struggle with acne, it's going to help turn over your skin cells 2 to 3 times faster, or it's going to help you feel like your most beautiful self, because it's going to get rid of your acne, and it's going to cause you to have super clear and smooth skin, and you're going to be excited to go out and about in the world because you're using this retinol, and you're going to feel the most confident you've ever felt, right? That is a solution or a transformation that somebody who's looking to purchase a retinol would rather purchase than me just saying, here's this retinol and it has all of these ingredients in it. This is what it's going to do for you, right? One is selling and actually talking about the product. One is selling the solution. So whether you have a product or a service-based business, I want you guys to think about, What solution is my audience looking for in a product or a service like the one that I'm selling? And how can I talk about it in a unique way and position it in my content in a unique way to where it's going to make them want to purchase it or invest within it? The other lens you need to take into account, and we've talked about this before on this podcast, is the 4 buyer types. If you have not watched our episode where we talk about the 4 buyer types as Sex and the City characters, make sure you go watch it because it's definitely going to be super, super helpful for you just to get more context about what we're talking about. But the 4 buyer types all take different things into account when they make a purchase or an investment. So we have our analytical and assertive buyer types. They are definitely people who take data and statistics and logistics and social proof and, all of those different things into account, when they're making a purchase or an investment. And then we have the amiable and the expressive, which they care a little bit more about feelings and emotions and trust and relationships, right? So when you are selling your product or your service as a solution, you want to be thinking about what is it that my target audience, what are their buyer types, and what are they taking into account when they're making a purchase or an investment? So for example, if we were talking about selling that service again, that marketing service, and you were talking specifically to more so the amiable and the expressive buyer types, you would basically talk about, with these marketing shifts in your strategy and all of the things that we're going to take off of your plate, you're going to feel calm and confident knowing that you can set revenue goals and actually meet and exceed them because your content is doing all of the heavy lifting for you. Not only that, but because of the content plan and the production plan that we're going to give you, you're going to feel so much less stressed because it's going to take you half the amount of time to film and create this content than it did before, and it's going to create so much more revenue for you. So you're going to be able to rest easy knowing that the revenue goals that you've set for 2024 are going to come to life because of the team that you have backing you, right? Those are feelings and emotions and trust that we're building when we're talking about that solution. If we were talking to more of that analytical and assertive buyer type, we'd be saying, we're going to basically, with these marketing and sales strategy shifts, we're going to double or triple the revenue that you are creating. And we're going to enable you to, cut down the amount of time that it takes for you to create content by 50%. So not only is your effort going down, but your revenue is going up pretty significantly. Or in order to do that, here is all of the deliverables of our agency package that we are going to use. Here's all the services that we're going to use. Here's all the deliverables that we're going to use. We're going to use 3 TikToks a day. We're going to do all these different things in order to create that transformation, because I know it really matters to you, not only about the ROI, but also about the details of what it is that you're going to get. So here's everything that you're going to get when you work with us, right? That's how you're going to sell it to analytical and assertive versus amiable and expressive. Versus a product, again, we're going to go back to retinol. You're going to feel your most confident. You're going to feel excited to go out again. You're going to feel excited to not wear makeup again, because of this retinol, blah, 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 right? Versus analytical and assertive. This retinol is going to turn over your cells 2 to 3 times faster than any other retinol on the market, which is going to enable you to have results faster. It's going to enable you to have better skin than you ever have before, blah, 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 right? They care about, the logistics and the statistics and the data and the timeline and the ROI, the result that they're going to get from this purchase or this investment versus how you feel and the emotions that go along with it. So always making sure that you are selling the solution through the lens of the buyer types that are in your audience. And then the last couple of things that I will also say is that you want to, like I said, anticipate objections or questions that your target audience is going to be giving you and infuse that into your content. We just talked about, that car salesman. He's always anticipating the questions. If you know what it is that you're selling and you've been selling it for long enough or you've done market research, odds are you kind of know the questions people are going to be asking. For us, every single different offer that we have, we know the questions that people are going to be asking us, and we're weaving that into our content. For our accelerator, a lot of them are very analytical. For our group program, so they want to know how many calls they're going to get per week. They want to know what times the calls are at. They want to know what level of live support they're going to be getting, etc. And so we infuse all of that content into our strategy so that when people are binging our content, they have no questions about any of those things, right? And we do that for every single offer. Same thing for our product. If you know that people are going to ask, like, How quick can I see results with this? Or like I did a marketing strategy for a candle company, and something that people were asking them pretty consistently was like, what is the burn life of this candle, right? Versus like Bath and Body Works or something, because it was a more expensive candle. And so that was something that we weaved into their content as well, because it was a question that they had, and it completely changed the game when it came to the sales that they were creating, because people were able to consume that content, not have to go back and forth about making a decision or having questions or objections, and literally just went to their website and purchased. And then the last thing that I want to remind you is that the two most common objections that you're likely going to be getting when it comes to, selling a product or a service is always going to be timing, and it's always going to be finances. So a lot of times the way to handle the financial investment is by talking about the ROI, the solution, the transformation in a meaningful way. So if you're doing that in the right way, you shouldn't be getting a lot of financial objections. And then following that, you can also be talking about essentially what you would be losing out on if you don't make this purchase or this investment. And then with the timing aspect of things, the other way to handle this is really to talk about, okay, if you waited essentially, right, when it comes to purchasing this product or making this investment in this service, what is it that you are delaying in terms of results, right? If you waited to purchase this retinol, you're delaying having really good skin, because retinol takes a little bit of time in order to, actually work its magic on your skin, right? Same thing with marketing. If you delay investing in marketing, you're delaying all of this revenue that you could be creating with the right strategy and with less effort, right? So you're talking about why they need to make this purchase or this investment now in your content versus waiting, right? That is a great way for you to be handling that financial and that timing objection consistently in your content, so that when people, again, are binging that content, you're making sure that you're handling those objections. So it's like a no questions asked, no delay sales process. So just to wrap all of this up for you guys, when it comes to sales versus selling without selling, remember the key things that you want to be focusing on is, how can I talk about my product or my service as a solution to my target audience's problems or desires, rather than talking about it as just a product or a service? How can I sell that solution through the lens of the buyer types in my audience, i.e., what's important to them? And what potential questions or objections will they have about this product or service that I can weave into my content in order to consistently create sales in a way that feels super, super effortless? So hopefully you guys learned a little bit something about how you can kind of tweak your strategy moving forward to make sure that you are really selling without selling. And like I said, once you're doing this consistently, sales becomes so effortless, and your content creation and your production process becomes so effortless too, just because you never really feel like you have questions, about what it is that you need to say to get your audience to buy. And you always know that what you're saying in your content makes your audience feel really empowered to make that decision to purchase or invest from you. So if you guys have any questions about this, definitely head over to my Instagram, or you can also head over to our YouTube and leave a comment there and ask questions. But otherwise, make sure you connect with me on TikTok and on Instagram, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye, guys.